Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's regularly scheduled City Council meeting. A very happy birthday to the city of Chicago, who celebrates their birthday today. Very exciting, isn't it? Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Bruno.
Here.
Burkhardt.
Here.
Clements.
Here.
Ruby.
Here.
Dean Kilberg.
Gilbert, here.
Maladra.
Here.
Marks.
Here.
McGowan.
Here.
Radecki is not here.
Correct.
Swanson.
Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alderman Kilberg is participating via telephone this evening. Doing so is permitted under state law. When a vote is taken, Mr. Kilberg will be asked to provide his vote, state his name, and then cast his vote accordingly. So, let's kick things off, folks. Item 4, the Pledge of Allegiance. Gosh, forgive me. Alderman Burghardt, would you kindly lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tara. Item 4, ladies and gentlemen, amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments this evening? Item 5 is the omnibus agenda. All items marked with an asterisk are considered to be routine by this city council and can be considered and acted upon with one motion. Is there such a motion? Alderman Bruno makes the motion. Second. Alderman Swanson makes the second. Mr. Clerk, whenever you're ready, please take the roll call.
Bruno.
Aye.
Burkhardt.
Aye.
Clements.
Aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
Kilberg.
Gilbert, aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
McGowan.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
The omnibus agenda passes with 9 affirmative votes and 1 absent. We skip down to item number 10, municipal bills for payment. Mr. Clerk, please read the bills in their aggregate for our consideration.
Total bills, $705,236.85.
Mayor, I move we approve and pay the bills as read. The individual items that add up to that amount can be found in tonight's packet on the city website.
Alderman Bruno makes the motion to pay the bills as presented, which are also available on the city's website and in our packets this evening. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Clements. Any questions or comments regarding the bills as presented? Hearing none, seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Bruno.
Aye.
Burkhardt.
Aye.
Clements.
Aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
Kilberg.
Gilbert, aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
McGowan.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
The motion to pay the bills has passed with 9 affirmative votes and 1 absent. Folks, under Committee of the Whole, items of business, item 11A is to recommend resolution number 2019-15, adopting financial policies for the city of Geneva, Illinois. Is there a motion? Motion by Clemens.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Marks. We will kindly ask our city administrator, Ms. Dawkins, to provide some additional information and update regarding our discussion from last week.
So last week, there was just one question regarding number 4, which was investment returns, and we had removed provide the highest investment returns, and Alderman Clements had a concern with that, so we've revised it again, and it was in your packet. But for those who may not have seen it, we revised it to say the portfolio is designed to obtain maximum returns, taking into account the city's investment risk constraints, cash flow demands of the city's funds, and conforming to all state and local statutes governing the investment of public funds. So again, it's trying to get the best that we can, but also taking into consideration all of those other factors. Other than that, it's the same as what you saw last week.
Any questions or comments from the dais? Alderman Kilberg, any comments or questions?
Okay.
We have a motion. We have a second. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Bruno.
Aye.
Burkhardt. Clements.
Aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
Kilberg.
Gilbert, aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
McGowan.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Item 11A passes with 9 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 1 absent. Folks, we're already at new business. And we invite anyone in the audience to share any new business and/or ask any questions, comments regarding anything you've heard here this evening or anything at all. Yes. Please join us at the podium if you would. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How
Good,
are you?
good.
I'm Jennifer Gustafson. I live in the 5th Ward, and as you guys are aware, that's where the South Historic District is being proposed. I've been following that closely, and I want to be clear that I know you guys have not been asked to vote on this matter tonight. I am not asking for your opinion on the matter, and I'm not coming in a hostile position. I just have a procedural question that I
Sure.
think needs to be brought to the committee's attention. There was a conflict of interest identified by the city attorney. So an outside attorney has been hired by the city to work on the South Historic District proposal. And on the fact sheet on the city's website and an email from the preservation, from Michael Lambert, he said that the city council was not made aware of this before the hire. So I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that an outside attorney has been hired to work on this process, which is fine. But I've prepared a packet for you so that we're all looking at the same documents while I raise my question.
Thank you.
I'll give you a minute to pass those around, and I can. If you look at this packet, the first document that you'll see is the Geneva, Illinois Code of Ordinances, Title 10, Chapter 6, subsection 7.3. This refers to the historic district designation fees. And the statute reads, in part, the applicant for the proposed designation of any historic district shall be required to pay an application deposit at the time of filing and shall bear all costs associated with the application and designation process. The deposit shall be used to cover the cost of direct expenses, including but not limited to attorney fees. The second document you will see is the applicant certification. This is from the application itself. There are 5 applicants. I have copies of all of their certifications, but the words are the same, so I just included one to save some paper. I brought the others with me if you need to see them tonight. The wording that is important is highlighted. It says, I agree to reimburse the City of Geneva for any additional professional services or costs incurred by the City of Geneva, including but not limited to fees of attorneys. The third document is from the application instructions for the nomination application. And this document says that each applicant is responsible for all direct expenses associated with the processing of a historic district nomination, including but not limited to attorney fees. It further states that if additional fees are incurred, the process will stop until those fees are paid by the applicant. However, on that fact sheet and in the email from Michael Lambert, it states that the city's opinion is that the city, i.e. the taxpayers, will be paying for the attorney for this process. It is my opinion that this position is in direct contradiction to the statutes and the application and the signed papers by the applicants, and I think that the process should be halted until a full accounting can be made and the position can be reconciled. And I welcome discussion.
Do you want to add anything? No?
I'll dive in. Sorry. Would we be paying these fees to the attorney who recused himself?
I believe that these fees are being paid to the new attorney who has been engaged for this matter.
So
If
an
a new attorney
but-
had not been engaged,
Well, what if our attorney recuses himself? Are we not entitled to legal representation in that case?
I have no objection to the city having legal representation in this matter. My objection is that the applicant is not being asked to foot the bill for this.
I understand, but I'm asking who would foot the bill if the first attorney does not recuse himself?
Still the applicants.
So the applicant would pay the portion of our attorney's salary for the time he spends on this application?
The applicant shall be required to pay all costs associated with the application, including attorney fees and/or staff time, per the
So-
ordinance. So yes,
Oh, okay.
that's
I
what the
don't know how
ordinance
that-
says.
I don't know how that works, like, we have a retainer agreement, so we pay X amount of dollars per month or whatever for legal services.
In my past life, I was an attorney. I know how billing works.
Okay,
And so
good.
even with a
Thank
retainer,
you.
there should be hourly
That's what I was asking
notes
now.
of what was worked on.
Thanks.
Well, I have something to ask without being,
Yes, one moment, Alderman Kilberg. We're going to recognize Alderman McGowan, then I'll turn to you.
That's fine.
Thank-
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
sorry, I should have raised my hand on that. When we look at the applicant's certification, that's signed,
Yes.
it does say, additionally, I agree to reimburse the City of Geneva for any additional professional services or costs incurred by the City of Geneva, including but not limited to fees of attorneys, but when you read further, it does say, when those fees are directly associated with the City of Geneva making a final determination regarding this request for historic district designation of the nominated property. So I'm wondering if that sort of separates out some of the attorney's time in preparation for, you know, information gathering and reviewing and analyzing. What part of what the attorney's work includes making, directly associated with the City of Geneva making a final determination. So I feel like there's a little bit of confusion there.
Well, I would argue two parts to this. First, if we are having to engage a separate attorney because of a conflict of interest, I would argue that any time that that attorney is using would be easily accounted for and attributable to the applicants. Also, the statute does supersede the applicant certification. The applicant certification strengthens the argument that they are responsible for fees, but the statute is the highest authority on this, and the statute is very clear that the applicants shall bear all costs associated with the application and designation process. And this is definitely part of the process.
And I wonder what the history has been, no pun intended, with previous situations where residents have maybe proposed a different historic district, and what happened at that time? Did the city attorney take care of that? Did the applicant pay for the attorney's fees? I'd be interested in finding that out, because I think it would be relevant.
I would be interested to know if the city's followed the ordinances written since 2015 as well. I know that the fees were part of the 2015 argument when the statute was being rewritten. But I remain baffled at how we couldn't see a statute that says the applicants shall bear all costs, and the city is saying that they will not pay for attorneys.
Alderman McGowan, to my understanding, there's only been one instance where the ordinance has been put into play, and that was an instance where the city determined that it was not in the ken of the city, the applicant, because it was actually an objection, not an application, that spurned attorney's fees. So the city determined that was not applicable in that instance because it was an objection rather than an application that was put
Was
into
that
play.
in the case where Fred Zinke, the husband of one of the Historic Preservation Commissioners, brought a historic landmark designation petition for the old mill site?
Correct.
At the risk of seeming unfriendly, there might be a bit of a conflict of interest in deciding that the husband of one of the Historic Preservation Commissioners shouldn't have to pay the fees associated with the nomination.
Neither here nor there. One, it was determined there wasn't a conflict at that time because the commissioner to which you are referring recused herself from the process. And second of all, again, it was an objection, not an application. And it was the applicant that tried to tax the objector with the expenses, and the city determined that was inapplicable.
And I apologize, I realize that comment can definitely be read as hostile, and I'm looking solely for clarification, not to cause a problem here tonight, but it does seem contrary to the purpose of the statute, which, from reviewing the minutes and watching the meetings in 2015 when this ordinance was being debated, it was made very clear that these fees are meant to be a deterrent to frivolous nominations. So if we are going to say that applicants only have to pay for costs associated as long as nobody objects, completely undermines the purpose of the statute to protect the citizens from the nominations. And I know that people are incurring costs to object, and I think it makes sense that we should follow not only the letter, but also the spirit of the statute and make sure that the applicants bear the costs of their application instead of the taxpayers.
Alderman Kilberg?
I think before we go much further, I think it would be helpful to the council if they had our legal counsel provide some additional feedback so that we can interject and provide some commentary or input based on more of the details surrounding this lady's. I'm sorry, the lady's name, I couldn't quite hear it.
Jennifer Gustafson.
Mrs.
Okay,
Gustafson, yeah.
Okay, I just, I think before we get out over our skis on this, I think it'd be helpful if if our attorneys would, and maybe this has been researched by our attorneys already, but I think it'd be helpful if they had some input to the council before we had much more discussion.
Thank you, Alderman.
I think you raised some good points, but I think that I'm not informed on the specifics that's been raised, and I think it would be good for the council to have some time to read and make an assessment as well.
Alderman Burkhart?
Yeah, I don't disagree with Alderman Kilberg, but I do want to say, as someone who was here and newly elected during that debate that went on for a long time, I mean, applicant fees were something we talked about a lot, and as Ms. Gustafson says, the big debate was to try to make it clear to applicants that this was serious. It wasn't something to be done lightly, just to, prevent your neighbor from an addition that you're not a fan of, we were really, I think we did a great job with the transparency, improving the transparency of this process, the timeline, but I just wonder if she does raise a good question that requires some clarity here. Each one of these cases seems unique, and I think sometimes we think we've got our ducks in a row, and you get thrown a wrench, like the city attorney having to recuse himself. I'm interested in, hearing more about this for sure.
Does anyone else object to that path forward with respect to seeking additional counsel from our legal team? The legal team not present this evening?
Respectfully, I applaud you looking into it. I came here to inform the council, since the statement on the website said that the council was not informed before the decision was made. But the public hearing is in about 2 weeks, and I am concerned about the timing and about incurring additional costs, whether they be to the taxpayers or the applicants. So while I would really like to see this looked into more, I would love to have that looking into time-bound, and I'd love to urge the council to consider pausing the process, which was the remedy in the application packet, where it says that the nomination process will not continue until the applicant has paid accrued additional expenses. If we don't yet know what those accrued additional expenses are, they cannot have paid them. I think that we should stop work on the process until this question can be answered and a full accounting can be made.
Stop work on the process, save for our communication with legal counsel.
Yes, that would be my request, that we postpone the hearing until this matter can be settled.
I can't respond to you specifically regarding postponing the hearing before the HPC.
Yes.
Because I simply don't know whether we, as a council, have the authority to do so until we have conversations with the council that we have retained. But that conversation with council will take place immediately, and then we will provide that information, if not directly to you, certainly on the fax page.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I really
course.
appreciate all of you giving me the time to talk about this, and even more that you're taking the time to look into it. I look forward to what you find.
May I ask one quick question, Ms. Gustafson? You referenced that some of the neighbors are incurring costs with respect to their certification. Does that cost exceed the cost of filing this document? Should I infer that those costs also include legal costs by residents as well, or no?
There are residents in opposition that have been incurring legal costs, and I have been informed that the proponents may also have legal representation and are incurring further costs. So I think that it is my impression that there are many feelings on both sides.
No question.
So yeah, I just want to make sure that our facts are all straight.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience? Back to the dais. Alderman Ruby.
Thank you. Just another comment on this topic that I'm interested in. On the first page, it says the minimum application deposit shall be clearly identified on the historic district application form provided by the city. So I'm just curious if that did indeed happen, if that is in place, what that amount would be, if that has been defined.
Yeah, it is defined in the ordinance.
Okay.
It is, as Alderman Burkhart indicated, there was considerable discussion and debate regarding what that fee should be. Right, but I know that there was consideration of whether it should be significantly higher, less, is it punitive by being too high, on and on and on. So, and it is referenced on this cover document right here. $500, yep,
Oh, okay. Thank you.
certainly. Anyone else from the dais? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Burns. I just wanted to, by way of public service, remind everyone that there is a League of Women Voters of Central Kane County Candidates Forum taking place in Geneva this Wednesday, March 6th at 7 p.m. It will be held at Geneva Middle School North, which is right on Viking Drive. So this is a really great way for the public to learn about all of the candidates that are running for local office, including school board, library board, and candidates for city council. So again, that's this Wednesday, March 6th, 7 p.m. at Geneva Middle School North. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Tom Simonian. I'd like to piggyback on Jen's last comment about the emotions on both sides of this equation, and I want to ask the alderman if you would please refrain from commenting about this issue in social space and allow due process to happen, and you can have your comments when they come to the dais. But we have seen comments in the social media from some of the aldermen that just are unacceptable, in my opinion. And you're not here to sway the individual's decision as an alderman. So I would appreciate it if you would stop doing it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, and for those of you joining us tonight and by television, I sent an email to the city council earlier today with respect to the ever-popular and fancy acronym, the Speed Control Policy Task Force, or SCPTF. As all of you know, on February 19th, we announced the establishment of a Speed Control Policy Task Force. We were hoping to receive, at minimum, 2 applicants per ward to select from to serve in this task force. As of close of business today, we have received only a total of 11 applications, with 0 applications from the 5th ward, and only 1 application from the 1st ward, and the majority of those applications come from the 3rd ward and the 4th ward. So I would like your advice and counsel as how best to proceed. There are 2 schools of thought. In fact, there might be multiple schools of thought, one of which I heard today was, and I throw this out there for discussion purposes, that, well, clearly, the speed issue isn't as paramount as perhaps we thought it was, therefore, let's move on to other items. Or 2, let's appoint all those who have expressed interest and call it a day and move forward. Doing the latter, of course, means that the 5th ward would not be represented at all. Number 3 is we extend the deadline. So have at it, whatever you think is best. For those council members who have candidates in their ward that exceed the number 2, it is your responsibility to determine who should serve in that task force, and I'll be happy to appoint them if indeed we decide to have a task force. So with that, I open it up to discussion and comments. Yes, Alderman Maladra.
That third one was my suggestion. So Alderman Swanson and I commented to some people in the Fifth Ward that the task force was being formed. I assumed that would cause a rain of applications. I guess that was a bad assumption, so I said, give me a week and we'll beat the trees and we'll get some Fifth Ward representation. And that's what I intend to do. So if I can buy a week, I think that would be helpful for us to meet the original goal. We could still, that task force could still finish by June 19th, I think was the date we threw out.
June 4th, correct?
Okay, June 4th. So I'm asking for the additional time.
I'll piggyback on that as well.
Okay. Alderman Bruno?
My instinct is to extend the deadline.
Alderman Kilberg, any questions or comments?
No, I'm fine if there are some potential candidates from those wards that are lacking. I extend it till this Friday and then go with what you have as far as the 11th.
Anyone else from the dais?
So
Alderman Berger.
are we envisioning extending it for the whole pool or only the places where we don't have enough already?
Well, I think it would be for the whole pool, because right now, ladies and gentlemen, we have 1 applicant from the 1st ward, we have 4 from the 2nd ward, we have 5 from the 3rd ward, we have 1 from the 4th ward, and 0 from the 5th.
I think it's only fair to tell people that you have until Friday or Monday, whatever we determine. I just wanted to be clear about that.
Yeah, we can extend it to a week from today, if you'd like, and we can repost it again. You know, Alderman McGowan provided some pretty interesting analytics with respect to how many people have seen this posting. In fact, it's upward of 3,000 people that have seen this posting via Facebook, just on Alderman McGowan's.
Well, yeah, just on the blast that I sent out
Yeah.
to the What's Happening in Geneva Facebook page, and it seemed like a lot of people were interested, and it may be one of those cases where everyone thinks that everyone else is submitting their
Sure.
application, they were interested in doing it but didn't, and maybe now this will be an opportunity for them to say, oh, I think I will submit the application. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think it would be great to extend the deadline on that.
Great. Any objection to so doing? Great, that'll be done. Anything else under new business? If not, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Alderman Marks makes the motion.
Second?
Alderman Bruno makes the second. All in favor of adjourning this meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Over, guys.
Thank you, Dean. Enjoy Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Say-